he was consumed by fury and a thirst for revenge.
Your brother is dead.
I have a feeling I don't even need to intro this video all that much, as based on the thumbnail and title, I know why most of you are here. Analog horror fairy tales have been a topic of conversation I did not think would still be going on. We have now reached a trilogy of videos all about analog horrors that bring a unique twist to classic fairy tale stories. We have briefly mentioned the likes of Shrek and Hoodwinked before, and that's mostly because those two pieces of actual art sort of do the same thing. Obviously, these works don't take the fairy tales and brutalize them in grotesque ways and turn the whole thing into a horror movie. But they still take what should be a wholesome tale with perfect happy endings, and they twist it around with crude humor and more inappropriate situations. Interestingly enough, the first example of fairy tales being twisted around or parodied would be in 1959's The Rocky and Bullwinkle Show in a frequent segment called Fractured Fairy Tale, and would feature a bunch of familiar fairy tale stories, but with a modern twist. But it seems after Shrek, the fairy tale parody genre blew up and became active throughout a handful of movies. A question I actually have for you guys is who here has seen the second Hoodwinked movie? The one where a lot of the cast got replaced and the story wasn't all that interesting. If you had, I would be pretty surprised, because I don't think I've heard of that movie since it came out. I haven't even seen it since it came out. However, at this point, I have definitely rambled on about fairy tale history long enough. Yet again, we find ourselves returning to foxymations as the shockingly well-connected bundle of fairy tale analog horrors seem to have reached its conclusion. If you haven't seen them already, I highly recommend you check out all of his work before heading on over here. I'll also have linked down in the description parts 1 and 2 of our analog horror fairy tale journey. Last we left off, we saw as the last remaining little pig sacrificed his life to set the big bad wolf on fire, casting himself and the enemy ablaze, while also setting everyone's souls free. However, the wolf was revealed to have been a person in his past life, sending out a warning to Gretel, Hansel's sister, telling her that her brother's soul is not free like the rest, and she must confront the witch if she wants to save him. This witch is also the lady who turned the wolf into the monster he was. Now we have arrived at the latest tale in the story, Hansel and Gretel. Without a doubt, this has to follow Gretel on her quest to free her brother from the witch's grasp. And seeing as how this is the longest entry in the series, I can only imagine we are going to get quite the finale. So enough yapping. Let's equip our wolf repellent and our stakes, and head back into this hellscape of a fairy tale forest. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to let you guys know that me and some of the gang will be attending Phoenix, Arizona's Game On Expo 2025, all 3 days, April 4th through the 6th. No affiliation with the event, just there to have a great time at the convention, so if you have your own tickets or are planning on it, you may see some familiar faces. Be sure to follow us on Instagram to get more updates as the event gets closer, and be on the lookout soon, because it's likely more conventions that we plan to go to are on the way. But anyways, now you can pass through. Hansel and Gretel. Our story begins, and we are met with a house, specifically Gretel's house. We see as she lays in bed asleep, when all of a sudden a picture of her and Hansel gets picked up by a mysterious force and slammed on the ground, shattering the frame. What creature possesses this kind of ability? Gretel is woken up by the noise, and at the far end of the room she sees what I can only imagine is the ghost of Hansel. She asks if her brother has returned to her, and Hansel ends up giving a short message to his sister.
Save me.
Gretel is still unsure if what she saw was actually Hansel. Granted, he does look a lot more messed up than he did when we last saw him. And to be fair, this could be the witch tricking Gretel to put herself in danger. But anyways, she chalks it up to her just going a little crazy. She thinks back to the last thing Hansel said to her, as it may contain a clue as to his whereabouts. From what we see, Hansel informed Gretel that he was going on a hunt for that wolf, so she knew what his mission was. And according to Gretel, it's been 3 days since he has left. Gretel gets out of bed and approaches the broken frame. She ends up stumbling upon a strange letter right next to it. Gretel, save me. Follow the breadcrumbs on the path. Don't trust her. It seems like Hansel's spirit was able to leave a message behind. And once again, he makes an appearance to ask Gretel to save him once again. Gretel takes this as a sign that Hansel is in danger. She vows to save her brother before literally strapping herself up and preparing to follow the breadcrumbs through the forest. We end up cutting to found footage POV of Gretel. She asks herself where Hansel could have gone before we end up getting our first look at the breadcrumbs she is following. While heading through the forest, she ends up stumbling upon a destroyed brick house. Rest in peace, pig. You were the only one smart enough to build your house out of bricks, yet you still chose to sacrifice yourself in the end. Looking back, the wolf truly did wreak so much havoc on what should have been a peaceful forest. Gretel continues on her journey, and she winds up finding herself at another house. After looking back, this appears to be Grandma's house, and it doesn't take long for her to end up coming across Hansel's spirit once more. This time, he doesn't say anything, he just disappears. Gretel is still unsure if it is truly Hansel that she is seeing, but the time has come for the breadcrumbs to reach their end. And where do they lead? Well, to this house made out of candy. Seems pretty out of place for Hansel and Gretel. The front door opens, and we get our first look at our witch, and I gotta say, her voice is really unsettling.
How can I help you? Did you like my house?
Gretel gets straight to the point and holds up a photo of Hansel, asking if she has seen him. The witch just tells Gretel to come inside and that she can help. But Gretel is on her A game, remembering back to the letter, remembering not to trust this lady. Gretel heads on inside and the house is incredibly dark, only being lit by one candle and Gretel's flashlight. The witch offers Gretel something to eat, but Gretel shuts down the question and asks again if she has seen her brother. The witch, likely acting oblivious, asks for his identity and when he was last seen. Gretel informs her about Hansel and the fact that he went out hunting a wolf, and it's now been 3 days. The witch then apologizes, which seems to confuse Gretel, but the witch then begins to give us a better idea of this wolf. When asked for a bit more clarification, the witch goes on to give us the wolf's backstory. Apparently, back when he was younger, he was human, and everyone loved to mock and bully him. This was apparently due to the fact that he was considered weak and fragile, and the fact he never defended himself didn't help. But as these stories normally go, the bullies do something unforgivable. We see as the boy stares horrified at something off screen, asking why would they do this? Why are they so bad? And it's revealed that they burned down his house. And after that, he went completely mad. We don't even know if anyone was in that house. It could have been his whole family. Nonetheless, he vows that they will pay for what they did, and it's said that his fury and thirst for revenge completely corrupted him. We then see as he goes out and gets his revenge on each person who bullied him. And he didn't just stop there. He went after anyone and everyone who was unfortunate enough to stumble upon his path. He started to become unsatisfied with just murdering, however. He wanted to become something more. That's when he found himself at the witch's house. He knocks on the door and the witch asked how she could help him. And sure enough, his wish was basically just to become an evil creature.
Your wish is horrible. You're horrible.
She then asks what creature he would like to be similar to, and you'll never guess his answer.
You want to become a creature similar to what?
Say that again.
Guys, I got it.
The witch then tells him that she will need the body of a wolf to continue further. And if you aren't really in the right mood to hear about animal cruelty, I'd skip to this point right here. Now it's just us who have to witness this tragedy. Sure enough, he finds himself a wolf and takes it down. Once the wolf is brought to the witch, she then asks him what his greatest fear is. And just like our old pal Freddy Krueger, he fears fire the most. Now that the witch has all she needs, she tells him that he will turn into an immortal, cruel, and bloodthirsty wolf. But fire will be his weakness, so he mustn't ever go near it. She then drops the final catch.
As a form of payment, I want your soul in exchange. Do you accept?
Yes.
A couple of days later, the wolf took his form, and we see a recap of all his previous murders. The witch then tells Gretel that her brother was likely a victim to the wolf. Gretel has a hard time accepting the story, but the witch assures her it's true. But Gretel yells out that she doesn't believe her, and she goes to leave. However, once she heads to leave, she's about to face a harsh situation.
I'm just telling you the truth. And how will you leave in this rain?
Gretel thinks to herself that this rain wouldn't necessarily stop her from getting home, but she has faith her brother led her here for a reason. Feeling like the witch is hiding something, Gretel agrees to stay the night. We can even see Hansel's spirit appear briefly in the window. The witch tells Gretel that she can have the spare bedroom upstairs, and that she better not even think about going into the basement. I'm sure we're gonna go to the basement. Gretel then makes her way upstairs, and finds where her room is. Inside her room isn't anything special. Plus, Gretel knows she is going to have to quickly plan a course of action. The night continues further, and we can see that Gretel is sleeping in her bed. So much for that plan. But we quickly end up cutting to this scene outside, except Gretel is now laying in the grass. She gets up and sees Hansel, perfectly alive and well, standing in front of her. Gretel goes to approach him, but stops in her tracks when she sees him in a different form. Now, Hansel is all covered in blood, likely the state the wolf left him in. Speaking of the wolf, he ends up making a special appearance.
Your brother is dead.
Gretel then wakes up from her nightmare, but her bedroom door slowly opens up, and the witch creeps in. Gretel ends up shooting awake, frustrated that she fell asleep by accident. Now it's time to locate Hansel. She notices the door is open and takes this as a sign to get real. She makes her way to the basement door, but she ends up entering a room with the dead wolf first. Gretel now believes the wolf exists, and notices he's got something in his hands. She gets a little bit closer before discovering it to be the basement key. Now we're back in business. She slowly begins to make her way downstairs, and oddly enough, the witch isn't anywhere to be found. This could be both a good thing, or a really bad thing. Anywho, we finally find and unlock the basement door, and are met with a flight of stairs. All Gretel can do is hope that he is down here. She ends up coming across a book next to a wooden door, titled The Cry of the Soul. She opens it up, and honestly, she found the most useful book she could have ever come across. The book that will make the souls of otherworldly creatures cry. If you come across a witch, pierce her forehead, her right shoulder, and finish with her heart. Why would the witch keep this here? Maybe to make sure no one else has it? But in that case, why is it just sitting out? Take better care of your things, lady. Gretel takes note of what she just read, and when she flips the page, we see a section on the wolf. But the most concerning thing is the next page, where all it says is "don't move." Then out of nowhere, a face appears right above the cryptic message. At first, I thought it was the witch, but at second glance, at that point at the top, I think this is Little Red Riding Hood. Gretel ends up putting the book down and sees the witch has caught her, and there's nothing Gretel can do. She wakes up and finds herself tied to a chair, confused as to where she is. She wiggles around trying to break free, but with no luck. The lights flick on and we see the witch once more, with the wolf's body in her hands. Gretel demands to be let go, and after literally calling her slow, the witch drops a giant twist.
You fell right into the hallucinations I made you have about your brother. I brought you here because I want your body and your soul, since all these bodies that I collected are empty without a soul.
So the witch's goal is to steal Gretel's soul, as everyone else's souls were set free by the pig, leaving the only two available souls to be Hansel's and Gretel's. She then takes pride in the fact that she herself created the wolf, and takes credit for all of the death and destruction across the woods. Apparently, she was present during every single one of the wolf's murders, but her plans were momentarily foiled when the wolf was killed. However, now that the witch has successfully led Gretel here, it may all be over. But then the witch tells Gretel that she is going to see how her brother is, as she contemplates her failure. And sure enough, the witch pulls a string to reveal Hansel behind the curtains. Gretel asks what was done to him, and in the most shocking turn of events yet, Hansel is still alive. Well, that didn't last very long. How wild is it that Hansel is shown to us alive for literally a whole 25 seconds before his head gets ripped off? And I counted. The witch drops his head to the floor, and Gretel cries out in horror, in shock of what she just witnessed. We then see the witch looking as sinister as ever, claiming Hansel's soul. Now Gretel is the only soul left for the witch to consume, and she's heading straight for her in this terrifying scene.
All I have left is your Gretel. Come here.
Give me your soul.
Gretel is miraculously able to break free from the rope, and she immediately whips out her pistol and manages to fire a shot in her forehead, then one in the shoulder. But before she can get the final shot through the heart, she is picked up by the throat by the witch. Who knows how this will turn out? And just like that, the witch's heart was pierced. And just like the book, Gretel was able to hit those 3 perfect shots. We see as the witch flails around before collapsing onto the floor, lifeless. Her soul then erupts from the body, complaining about how Gretel managed to ruin her plans, while also rubbing in the fact that she wasn't able to save Hansel at the end of the day. We then see the wolf in his human form. Before we see the text, "We will both burn in hell together." The two then fade away in quite the musical exit. Gretel is now the only living soul left, clearly traumatized and distraught. She manages to make her way out of the candy house. She holds up a picture of Hansel and apologizes, saying she hopes he can rest now. Gretel then walks off frame, never to return to the candy house again. We then arrive at a cemetery seemingly sometime later, at Hansel's grave, being visited by Gretel. Once again, she hopes his soul is in a better place, and tells him she will miss him dearly. Gretel then drops a rose at his grave, and we see Hansel's soul appear behind the grave, just saying, "I can finally rest." He disappears before text again appears, just saying, "The true ending," and the last thing we see is the wolf and the witch burning in hell. I wonder if the text saying "the true ending" means we could get something more later on, perhaps some different endings. But like I said when I first covered the sequel to Little Red Riding Hood, I did not expect this story to become as expansive as it did. What started out as just a story about Little Red running into a much more sinister version of the big bad wolf turned into a tale incorporating multiple protagonists and a new villain controlling things from behind the scenes. And it all comes together in this really well done finale, with Gretel becoming the final girl in this fairy tale world, which I honestly did not expect in the slightest. I like how it was the 3 little pigs at the end of the day who were able to take down the wolf, and Gretel the witch, giving these fairy tale characters their respective antagonists to go against, and come out victorious. Well, sort of with the pigs. What's crazy to think about is that when we were first introduced to Hansel, I thought that he would be the one to save the day. He did manage to get a couple good hits on the wolf, but he ultimately became just another victim. I'm really glad the series was still able to surprise me in its directions, and I think what worked in its favor is the fact that it wasn't clear it was all connected when we first started. Something wild to also point out is that the 3 Little Pigs released on December 4th of last year, and our finale released a little over a month later, and was 10 minutes longer. Based on the description, Foxy does everything themselves. That's insane that this was able to come out as soon as it did. Not only that, but it's clear that the animation improved. It's possible the creator was animating more than one of these entries at a time, which is also super impressive. Needless to say, if you haven't already, you should definitely check out Hansel and Gretel for yourself, or the whole series if you haven't for that matter. I never expected it to be more than just 1 or 2 shorts, and was very pleasantly surprised to see it turn into a 4-entry series that paid off at the end. I truly can't wait to see what comes from this channel in the future. But on that note, that'll be about it for this week's video. If you choose to watch this over the Super Bowl, I thank you so much for watching. Then again, who wants to watch a Super Bowl from 2 years ago? However, as always, be sure to keep leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord where, just like the witch, you'll never know when I'm lurking. But on that note, I stumbled upon a trail of breadcrumbs, and I'm gonna see where it takes me.